My name is Marion Golda. I am a civil structural engineer. I've worked in the engineering industry for the past 5 years and mostly on road structures, but also in the built environment and also on water structures with supporting those departments, but majorly on highway structures. Why I choose to do engineering? Engineering was in my mind at a certain point in high school. So when I completed, of course, being a top student, we either wanted to do medicine or engineering. So yeah, I always thought of electrical, and when it got to that point of choosing my courses, I I was also encouraged to consider civil. So I applied for both civil engineering and electrical engineering at the University of Nairobi because I was undecided at that point of choosing. And I got both letters for electrical and for civil. And so when I got to orientation, and the last day was supposed to be discipline specific because the whole week was orientation week and all students were being oriented, but on the last day you were meeting in the different disciplines. So I decided, you know what, I'll start with civil. So I went, I think we were meeting, and one of the professors was telling us about what civil is, and I was deep down wondering, is this what I want to do? Maybe I should go try out electrical, and I compared the two. For some reason, I didn't go to the electrical class, though I had a letter, and the department actually called asking why I had not reported to the electrical class. So I didn't take that initiative to go to electrical to see what was going on there, though I had the choice to do that. I could either go to civil or electrical. So I stayed in civil, and here I am, 10 years later. Is it 10? Yeah, 10. 5 years in school, 5 years in the industry. Academic journey, I think I'll break it into the years. The first year, and I think also second year, but especially the first year was very tough on me. Well, because I think I really struggled because of two reasons, two main reasons. There were other reasons, but two main reasons. The first one, I noticed during the orientation that people actually knew each other. So you'd see people already in friend groups because they were from the same schools. So you'd see people cluster together and they had no problem fitting in, if I could say that. So for me, it was very difficult. I was the only student from my previous high school, and it was so hard for me to even go to class because I knew nobody. And the second reason would explain why I really struggled with social anxiety. So trying to know people, getting to a place where you open up to people is not something that comes naturally to me. Many years later, I know you're wondering, everybody I tell this always wonders because they see me in engineering politics and maybe they don't really believe that that might be true, but that's the story. That's actually what happened at that time in my life. I didn't have an easy time actually making friends or anything like that, though I knew I wasn't always like that. I don't know what happened along the way. So yeah, and it was very difficult for me. I even had a tough time going to class. I didn't want to go to class early. I went to class late, just in time when the class was starting, just so I don't have to chat with people. You get what I mean? So first year was tough. Second, it started getting better because I started like knowing people, and it was also contributed by the fact that I didn't stay in the hostels. And also, okay, so I didn't stay in the hostel because they were, you will see the people from the hostel, they were like a clique, and then you'd see people from the same school like that. And then there was also grouping, social groupings. You'd see like the rich guys, okay, if I can say that, they would be in some group. I mean, you'll just see people. And then the Arab students also, they liked being on their own group, like the Arab students. So people would be having all their groups, and for me it was almost impossible for me to fit anywhere in all the groups that were there. There were some students who lived where I lived, but then it took some time before we actually uh, got to know each other, and even like interact. So mostly it was just me and my three other roommates. One of them was a Chinese national. She was doing some project. She was working. She wasn't a student. But she shared with me that her husband was a civil engineer and I could share my assignments and he was able to help me. But the other one was a pharmacy student, and the other one was a bachelor in mathematics student. And for her, we actually went ahead and stayed. We moved out of the 4 roomed hostel, went to a two-roomed one, and we actually lived together for I think half of my campus life. So she helped me a lot with the pure maths the and the applied mathematics, because what I was doing was just like a tiny bit of what she did in her course. Then comes to second year was just same as first year, though I started knowing people a bit. But one thing I didn't used to understand much in first year and second year. I never failed, but I was just there, average. When I got to third year, I loved third year. I started actually understanding things, and I also loved the fact that the things we were doing, I could see the engineering in it. The only downside was I didn't have the practical knowledge. So sometimes the lecturer would teach, we'd be in class, and then he would point at a corner and say, the beam should be there and the column should be there. And I'm like, what is he talking about? All I can see is two walls joining. Where is the column? Where is the beam? I didn't know. And even when we were doing engineering drawings, I used to struggle a lot because, they would do lines and they would tell you this is a beam, and then they would say this is a column. They would draw another, box at the corner. And I'm like, what? And apparently some people used to understand. And I'm like, how do you guys understand these things? And at the end of my third year, I went and did a course on AutoCAD. It was so unfortunate because the person teaching it was not an engineer. He was just teaching how to draw lines. Literally, a waste of money, waste of money. And I'm so glad right now, so many engineers and professionals out there are offering these courses, including Uhandisi actually. And we are rolling out a Midas training course for those who want to learn how to design culverts, bridges. There's also Midas Gen that you can use for buildings. That said, there was also something in 3.2 called, if you're in the University of Nairobi, it was called the fourth term. And what happened during this fourth term is every day you tour somewhere, like you go to Crown Paints or Carrier, you go to, a road project being done, you'll go to a dam somewhere, just things that were relevant to what you're doing in class. But some of them I didn't see how they were relevant. And the last 2 weeks you were supposed to do survey practicals and in groups. So that's what happened during the fourth time. It was 2 week period. That was also at the end of my third year. Then fourth year, much better than third year. I think my engineering academic journey got better with the years. And in fourth year now we started doing like projects in groups, and it really felt like engineering. And I loved that. And even the doubts that I had if I should go to like an electrical engineering class, because I had that option, they started fading away when I got to third year, fourth year, because I started seeing the engineering and I started enjoying it. So I started fourth year, a few months into the 4.1, the first semester, Corona hit us. I think all of you remember Corona time. So at that time we were doing projects. I remember we were designing 12-story multi purpose building, and Corona hit us, and I think it was actually the day we were submitting that project. So we went into hibernation, quarantine, whatever, for some time, trying to figure out if you're going to leave the next day or not. And for me, I went home immediately, and being at home, we didn't actually do any classes, I think for around 2 months. And then people started the online things, and they actually started doing online classes. And we did online classes, finished 4.1. We did our exams online. Our 4.1 exams was done online. And then we started our 4.2. We did our 4.2 also online. We did exams. We did also our I think now when we got to 5.1, I don't know if it was 5.1 or 4.2, we didn't do it. They said we can't do exams online anymore. So we went, I think everything was resolved. That would be around 8 months later. I don't remember the timelines very well. Then now back to school, everything was, back to normal. Not back to normal really, but people could move around with the masks, of course. People were still moving around with the masks. Oh God, I hated that period. I hated wearing masks through the heat and everything. Now fifth year, there was nothing much. Mostly it was few units working on your projects, but not really few units. It's just that during exams you could actually not do some of the units. For example, I think surveying was optional. There's also some other unit that was optional. So I noticed that our courses actually increased with the years. On first year 13, second 14, 15, like that. So they kept increasing as the years went by up until fifth year. Then 5.2 now. I think beginning of 5.1 you start thinking about the project that you want to do, and then now you do it mostly in 5.2. You're majorly working on your project. So I was working mostly on my project, with the classes and everything, 5.2. And finally I did a project on evaluation of performance of the Ndora wastewater treatment plant. It was quite an experience, testing the process, the water as it comes, as it comes in as wastewater, and then as it gets treated, all the different stages, the sampling, all that, and testing all that. It was quite the experience, and the guys there were very supportive, and I generally just loved the whole experience. Just that it was so hectic. The samples were so many. But yeah, at that time, right now being a structural engineer, I just didn't like anything structural. Honestly, when I was in campus, I hated structures, and I think I explained to you it's because I couldn't picture it. I couldn't picture, I don't know how many years into engineering it took me to understand what a beam is or what a column is. And even right now, being a structural engineer, sometimes I just laugh because it was the thing that was hardest for me to ever grasp. And even coming into the industry, I don't even think I wanted to go into structures. But yeah, now here, structural engineer. Yeah. So that's pretty much the academic journey. Of course, there was also labs and other projects. I think I enjoyed. There was a project on finding out the reason for building collapse and just doing a study on areas where there have been building collapse and reasons why. And there was also a project on design of a reinforced concrete bridge. There was also one on design of a gatehouse that was mostly on engineering management. So we did several projects. The group projects, I loved them. And we also did, of course, the lab works where you go to the lab, do tests. And I think, yeah, those were also there, like most of the courses, geotechnical engineering, materials. Yeah, you'd go to the lab and do all that traffic. Yes, we even went outside, did traffic counts and all that. So there were also different kinds of projects and lab works that was done in between. I think second year to fifth year, but fifth year mostly it was your individual project. So yeah, that's the academic journey. Challenges were many for me, and I think I have tried to touch on a few. The challenges I had weren't really academic at all. They were culture shock, and I say culture shock because I was brought up in the village, my people. Village girl here. I was brought up in the village, and I go to Nairobi, and I couldn't believe how much I had to reconcile what I believed in and what was happening around me. And the other challenge that I had was social anxiety, as I have explained. It was so hard for me to make friends, to just interact with people. It was the most difficult thing. So you could find that in first year, I couldn't be around campus. I didn't used to stay in the school hostels anyway, so I never used to be around school. I wanted to go out, away from it as possible. So I used to leave and come back Monday. And yeah, it took some time before actually I had friends. So social anxiety was also something. Another challenge was actually depression. There's a time towards the end of my fifth year, I suffered depression. And honestly, something about depression is that you never realize that you're going through it until it's too late. It didn't affect my academics at all. In my fifth year, I got all A's. I only got one B. So it didn't affect my academics, but it did affect my mental health. So the depression was mainly not about anything, but it was about like relationships and around relationships, navigating that. As I was actually got out of it before I graduated. By the time I was graduating, I was all good. But I understand that's a very tough journey, and if it's something that you're going through or you ever find yourself in, I think what I can say is just actually, I don't even know what to say because for me, what helped me was a friend who had gone through the same thing, not really to do with relationships, but had gone through depression. So she was very helpful. I'd also say that don't post it on your status or something like that because I did that and some of the comments I got, it just made me realize people just don't understand. So if you have somebody who can understand you, it's best to talk to them. Another challenge I think was different lifestyle, different values, and I think not understanding that what makes me different is what makes me unique. And we were not manufactured in a plant. We are not vehicles that are just batch manufactured and we're supposed to be the same, behave the same, have the same specifications. Whatever makes you different, that's your strength. And I think reconciling that was a bit hard for me. And it took me time to realize that and just accept some things about myself. And I think the other challenge also was I actually I lived in a place that had very wealthy people. I don't think the family I came from is wealthy. I think it's like middle class. Middle class. Yeah. So being in that environment where people were very wealthy, like, where I lived for, I think the first 3 years in campus, people were just so rich, and I think it was so hard knowing that for me, I was just living there for convenience to my school. It was so hard to live among in such an environment. So I can say that those are some of the challenges that I faced in my academic journey. Highlights. You know, we are always so quick to talk of challenges, and it's always so hard to remember the good things. Of course, there were good things, but for me, I just can't. I almost can't pin them down. I almost can't. Highlights. My graduation was a highlight for sure. But that was like at the tail end of everything. That was like at the end of everything. Oh, highlights. Goodness. I think I loved the fact that I embraced fitness when I was in school. So I loved Zumba. I loved Zumba. So we used to go to Zumba at Bomas of Kenya on Mondays. But then when I got to, I think, third year, I started having classes until 6. And they traffic jam to Bomas. So there was no way I could continue going. So that stopped. But later on, I realized there was Zumba at Mamlaka Hill Chapel, which was near school, but it was in the morning, plus exercises. So started doing that. Yeah, I think that was a great thing. Another highlight, oh my God. Yeah, highlights are hard. I think I used to love sleepovers. Yeah, I used to love sleepovers at a friend of mine. And what are the highlights? Dear Lord. Yeah, highlights are tough. I guess that's it. I guess that's it. The sleepovers. One last one. My roommate and I used to love sampling hotels. Like we'd go to different restaurants just to know what's their best food, what do they buy, and window shopping in expensive malls. Oh God. Yeah. I think that was actually fun. I think when I was in school, I knew more restaurants than I know right now. Yeah. So yeah, those are the highlights. I think the lessons that I learned were you don't have to understand everything immediately. Like, there is that imposter syndrome. And somebody like me, I think everything in my life has been, I've never really gone to like a high end, something high end. My high school was, I think, an extra county school. I don't even think it was extra county. I think it was just a county school. And coming from that to meeting these students from national schools and all that, I think sometimes it would make you feel, they're smart. They may be too smart. And just realizing that you're just as good as long as you're in the room, you know, you are in the room, so you're just as good. And I actually did well. I did well eventually. I did well, and even much better than the students from the top schools. So don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. If everything doesn't seem like is, you know, supporting your reason to be there. Another lesson would be it's not as hard. It's not as hard. No, engineering school is not as hard, to be honest. It's not easy, but it's manageable. Another lesson is I wish I embraced collaboration earlier because that's the thing in now the real engineering. There's a lot of collaboration. Another lesson is things don't have to work out immediately. Like I had things work out for me much later, but also that was contributed to the fact that I didn't have that visualizing of everything that was being taught to me. So I'm thinking Maybe if you can go to an attachment, a job shadow, something to help you understand the concepts, then that would be better. Though recently I had like judge a bridge competition with the JQuat students, and I think their school is more hands-on, and I think they much better to grasp the concepts, the school concepts, because of that as well. So that's basically it. If you're thinking about joining a civil engineering school or you're in civil engineering school, please share your questions, your journey, and anything that you're experiencing right now, or how you're experiencing engineering school, or what you think about engineering school if you're just thinking of joining. Cheers.